In an effort to avoid controversial topics, I will not be talking about any children's series authors or any big budget video games. Instead, I'm going to talk about Ezra Miller and the DC cinematic universe. Sure, this will be a drama-free discussion. I do this to myself. So, yeah. I've been thinking about Ezra Miller lately, now that we have had the first full trailer for The Flash, and I've had a little time to kind of sit on it. I did a reaction to it initially, so if you want my actual thoughts on the trailer, there's a link. That's on the Break Room of Geeks, my secondary channel, if you weren't aware of that. And it's a pretty good trailer. I mean, part of it's nostalgia, Michael Keaton, whatnot, but like it's selling a decent product. I don't know how I feel about going to see it though. In theaters at the very least. And that pretty much largely has to do with Miller in specific. Now, Miller has been in a lot of trouble in the last year or so, pretty much. They kind of went on a tear when they were in Hawaii. There were some issues with the Iron Eyes family and whether or not they had coerced the child of these parents who were trying to get a protective order put into place. There were issues with their residence in Vermont, including it being an unsafe environment for a woman who was there with her kids and a whole bunch of other stuff. The short version of where all that currently stands, because I'm not going to go over all of it again in detail, is that for all of the shenanigans they got up to, pretty much everything has had the charges either dropped or withdrawn from the people initially registering the complaint. Now, reasons for doing that may vary. People may have just decided it wasn't worth the bother. In the case of prosecutors, they may have decided there wasn't enough evidence, or again, Miller can afford some serious lawyers, and so it's not worth the expense of dragging it through the court system. The only thing that they appear to be answering to is some of the stuff in Vermont, those being trespassing and burglary charges, which they appear to be taking a plea deal on. And they have also entered into some form of rehab and mental health counseling, which is good, because it really seemed like they needed it. I'm not going to do an armchair diagnosis. I've made my complaints in other videos about why I think that's very wrong, but I think, I don't think anybody was surprised to find out that they needed some mental health care. Now, at least last I checked, we don't have a specific diagnosis for exactly what's going on with them. They may not have a diagnosis yet either. That kind of evaluation might even be part of seeking help. We don't know. That's not really what I want to talk about, though. Because with the trailer now out, because things have been quiet for long enough that DC felt they were comfortable starting up the marketing machine again. And honestly, this is pretty much what I said was Warner Brothers' absolute ideal fallout for this. That they would stop getting into trouble, answer for stuff that they couldn't just duck out on, and immediately go into some kind of rehab or counseling or help. And that's what's happened. This is Warner Brothers and DC's absolute ideal. Which now begs the question, are they going to keep Ezra Miller on after The Flash? Because the word some months ago was no. Like, first of all, I know that a while back the discourse was, you should take them out of the movie entirely. You fire Johnny Depp from the third Fantastic Beasts movie. And I've discussed before why that's nowhere near equivocal. Johnny Depp was a supporting part who was let go after a week or two of filming. Ezra Miller is the lead, and now we know from the trailer, multiple versions of the lead. He's in almost the entire movie. The idea of reshooting it completely with another person, they were never, ever going to throw that much money at it. Because the film was already done. And like there were reshoots, but the filming was done. The effects were being worked on. That was never in the cards to recast and redo the movie. Realistically, ever was that going to happen. But it was an open question. Would Miller stay on? Now, with James Gunn coming on board and making it clear that he has got his own plans for what he's going to do, it seemed like a pretty safe bet, especially in light of everything Miller's gotten up to, that they'd be let go. It was a perfect opportunity for a clean break. Except Warner Brothers never officially said they would no longer work with Miller. And James Gunn has heaped a lot of praise on the Flash movie. And look, the Flash movie might be great, who knows? But both he and Warner Brothers seem to really be dancing around the question of whether or not they're going to keep Ezra Miller on. And the very obvious conclusion to draw from that behavior, from that reluctance to confirm, yes, we will do more with them, no, we are not going to work with them anymore. The obvious conclusion to come to is they're waiting to see the box office returns on the Flash movie. And that's where I come to my discomfort with going to the theater to pay to see it. Because I want to be clear, this is not, oh God, I said I wasn't going to touch on this. Screw it. I'm already in too deep on this. This is where I need to make a very clear distinction between my concerns with this situation and something like anything Harry Potter related and how that feeds back to J.K. Rowling. I think it's a very good thing that Miller is getting help. Miller's behavior was unsafe and erratic, but it was also unpredictable. And again, that doesn't excuse it, but the reason I have my issues with Rowling and supporting of Harry Potter is that her behavior is incredibly predictable. We know what she's doing with her time and money and influence and clout. So if you contribute to those things, you are enabling what she is doing with them, which is transphobia. That's what she does. But with Miller, in theory, and I'm going to underline that, in theory, you contribute towards their work. You don't know what they'll do. Now, their recent behavior does bring it into question, certainly. But it's not the kind of certainty where okay, financially contributing to this person contributes to some very clear harm, which it is. It is the case with Rowling. The thing is, we need to recognize that Rowling is actually a pretty rare case. I see people try and equivocate all other kinds of things, but Rowling's a very rare case of this is the person who always benefits from these, from the promotion of this property, and this is what she's doing with the influence and the attention and the money. We almost never have it that clear cut. It's not that clear cut with Miller. But I still have a discomfort. And some of that is what I tend to refer to as the factor, which is where I'm at with, say, Kevin Spacey. Kevin Spacey was in some of my favorite movies of all time. The Usual Suspects is one of my favorite movies. I have not watched it in years. I don't know when I will be able to, if ever. I still have my copy of it so that if I ever do decide to watch it, I'm not paying to see it. But I can't watch that. I can't put that DVD in a player in good conscience, not because me watching it at home somehow bolsters Kevin Spacey or Bryan Singer for that matter. But I do just feel about it. Regardless. So there's a little bit of that with Miller, but that's not the only thing that gives me pause. Because if their continued work within the DCU and at Warner Brothers is contingent on the success of The Flash, which, again, we don't know for a fact, but seems like the very safe assumption to make, then I don't know how I feel about contributing to their continued employment there at this time. and I should probably delve a little bit more into that. This is not about canceling Ezra Miller. At least it's not for me. Other people might have their own other reasons for not wanting to watch them, support them, see this movie, etc. I speak for nobody but myself. I'm not trying to cancel anybody. I think to whatever degree Miller is currently canceled, they did it to themselves. But the thing for me is that if what they're currently seeking is mental health, and if a lack of support and or the stress of the situations they were in were contributing factors to their behavior over the past few years, then I think it's a really bad idea to put them right back into that work environment again. Because if The Flash does really well, Warner Brothers is going to want to start using them again right away, be it in cameos like they had in Peacemaker, or be it in fast-tracking The Flash 2. Again, understanding that I don't know what their diagnosis is, and I'm certainly not a mental health professional, but it strikes me as a bad idea to immediately have them go back to work. And I think time off would be the best thing for literally everybody involved. And I don't know how comfortable I am contributing to the financial success of a movie where that success might result in somebody who really should just be getting help, continuing to be employed in a high-stress situation. Because making movies, promoting movies, these things are really stressful. But at the same time, there is the general idea of, don't people deserve second chances? Now, that conversation in and of itself can be a very loaded one and a very dicey one to try and have with people, because I think most of us have certain things for which we say, actually, no, you don't get a second chance after that. And for some people, I don't doubt that Miller has crossed that line somewhere along the way. I'm not sure I'm there, but then that hits onto sort of my other issue with second chances, which is the principle of second chances and what is usually being asked for as a practical reality when I see in conversations, well, you know, people should get a second chance. Because very often when it's come up in conversations when I've talked about other people in the past, be it Johnny Depp, Gina Carano, Joss Whedon, you know, this idea of, well, doesn't everyone deserve a second chance? If we, for the moment, just roll with the idea of, sure. Again, I'm not actually going to concede that point because sometimes, no. But let's, for the moment, assume that, yes, everyone deserves a second chance. My issue becomes people getting that second chance on credit. What I mean by that is basically slotting them right back into the circumstances they were in when they did whatever it was that's everybody's problem immediately, and the second chance becomes, just don't do it again. Except you've put them right back into a situation where they can do it again. You've enabled their ability to do it again. And you've shown them that there is not going to be an immediate consequence. You can say all you want, just don't do it again. But effectively, nothing happened. What will always strike me as a much more meaningful example for someone who earned a second chance is Robert Downey Jr. And he stands as a massive success story from someone who had a lot of problems and who was kind of shunted out of big budget Hollywood for a while because of those problems. And not even necessarily PR, like movies couldn't insure him. That's actually a really big issue with a lot of these actors, and this is a big reason why actors with problematic histories, especially in terms of behavior, will continue to find work, but in much smaller capacities, in like small, tiny supporting roles, because big budget things insure the actors so that if something happens, it's covered by insurance. But the insurance premiums on somebody with a behavior history like Ezra Miller has now, probably, or definitely like Robert Downey Jr. had back, say, in the 90s, yeah, it's not practical to give them a lead role because the insurance is going to be through the roof. And the result of that was that Robert Downey Jr. slogged for years in supporting roles, in roles that honestly, to know, the talent that he has always had, but also see what's happened to his career since Iron Man, roles that you look at and go, what? He was in that? He did what? He was in The Shaggy Dog? It seems laughable. But that was him paying his dues. That was him showing up to work on a regular basis, proving that he could stay out of trouble. And he had to do that for years. That, to me, is the model of a second chance being properly earned. As opposed to what I see so often requested, where, a celebrity does any number of things. Gets caught, on a drug bender, commits this crime, breaks this thing, DUI, all this kind of social media gaffe, reveals themselves to be a racist, a transphobe, what have you. When people ask for second chances, usually they're framing it in the way of, let's not punish them. And that perspective of a second chance is basically just giving them a gimme, letting them take a mulligan on their screw up. That's not a second chance to me. And that is unhelpful, I feel. But I don't think it is an unreasonable thing to say that Miller might be capable of earning a second chance with time working on whatever it is that's going on with them, time working in smaller parts, smaller projects, supporting roles, and showing that they can stay out of trouble for an extended period of time. Because if The Flash does really well, they're going to announce a sequel while it is still in theaters, and they will want to start shooting it within 2 years. Now, 2 years sounds like a lot of time, but given that Miller would have to be involved in pre-production for everything from costume fittings to possibly even some input on the script, depending on how the development of that goes, that's getting back to work pretty dang fast. And I don't think that's a good idea. Again, I say that as someone who doesn't know them, doesn't know exactly what they're going through. I haven't diagnosed them. I don't know exactly what their issue is. Maybe whatever it is is workable within that time frame. Maybe. I don't know. But I don't feel comfortable contributing to them being put back to work that fast. I don't feel okay about that. Is it a good idea? Is it a bad idea? I don't know. It's an uncomfortable one for me, though. And I think where I'm probably going to land on this is that I don't think I'm going to see The Flash in theaters. And I don't love saying that. Because like I said, I actually really like that trailer. I thought the trailer was great. Michael Keaton said, "I am Batman," and I cheered. And especially if it's as good as the studio and James Gunn are saying. That'll make it hard. But I actually think, for my comfort level at least, my uninformed comfort level, I feel like the better thing to do would be to have it do decently, but not perform well enough to greenlight a sequel, and to cut Miller loose so that they can focus on themselves, focus on getting their help, and they can find other projects. Miller is a talented actor. They are. I actually haven't cared for too many of the things they've been in that I've seen, but they are not untalented. They got as far as they did for a reason. But I think I gotta wait for this thing to hit streaming or something where I'm not just gonna hand cash over, and where I feel like the success in that particular venue is going to result in, and let's put them right back to work. I think that's where I'm at right now. I think the movie's probably going to end up doing well. And when it does, I think there's a very good chance they'll be retained. And then I think the best case I can hope for is that what gets announced is, yes, we will do more with Miller, but it's going to be in small appearances, and the Flash sequel is like 4 to 5 years away. Maybe I'd feel a little bit better with that. But with everything up in the air and not knowing what's going to come next, I kind of don't want to touch it. Again, personal feelings. This is not a call for a boycott, not a call for cancellation. This is just where I'm at with my own personal feeling of whether or not I'm comfortable. But I just wanted to talk it out. What are your thoughts on any of this? Whatever they are, drop something down in the comments and let's talk about it. Oh, keep in mind, this is not me saying that, oh, we should be sure Miller isn't getting paid. Miller obviously has enough money to be hopping between states with great ease. I think they're covered financially as is. So I'm not worried about that regardless. So again, as I said, whatever your thoughts are, down in the comments, let's talk about it. Patreon pays the bills and enables me to do this as my living. I've had a bit of an uptick in this past month, and it is helping a lot. Things are still tight, and they pretty much always are, but it really does help. But even if you can't support me that way, not only is there the like, share, and subscribe stuff, which you know about, you know YouTube, there's links down in the description for other projects that I do, things that I have available, whether it be my written work, such as a novel, my play, t-shirts, etc. Take a look at it, but don't worry too much about it, because what I really want you to remember is that you are beautiful, you are valid, and you are loved. You are the council. I'm just running the meetings. And until next time, this council is adjourned. And now my thanks to my highest supporters on Patreon. Robin Moore, Zubin Lafula, Tarak, the thing that goes doink in the anime, Oliver B., Melinda Walters, Emu Delkey, Leo the Boyd, Becky Sparks, Fernabulax, the Poodle, Tracy Scrabbit, Angry Casperl, Tim Price, Adam R.D.L. Taylor, Shayla Gourlay, and Rosalind Bennett. Thanks for your support. And if you want to get your name in the credits, check out the rewards on the Patreon.